People love him because he's interesting, but also having so much of him out there can also make him boring, the director and DC Studios co-CEO says of the Caped Crusader. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Batman's my biggest issue in all of DC right now, personally. And I'm not writing Batman, but I am working with the writer of Batman and trying to get it right, because he's incredibly important to DC, as is Wonder Woman, Gunn revealed. Outside of the stuff that I'm doing in the projects that are actively going, our two priorities are finishing our Wonder Woman and our Batman scripts. The biggest challenge James Gunn is facing with the DC Universe right now is figuring out how to get Batman into the fledgling franchise. The Superman director and DC Studios co-CEO revealed as much in an interview published Monday by Rolling Stone. During his conversation with the outlet, Gunn offered an update on the DC Universe's planned first Batman film, which he confirmed is still tentatively titled The Brave and the Bold. When he was asked broadly what his problems with the character are right now, Gunn explained, "Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, oh, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers, which he is. But because there's a need for him in the DCU and a need that he's not exactly the same as Matt's Batman." While he wants to avoid delivering a take on the Caped Crusader that is too similar to the brooding, noir-inspired one played by Robert Pattinson in director Matt Reeves' The Batman, Gunn also said he does not want to go too far in the other direction. "He's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a funny, campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that," Gunn noted. "I think I have a way in, by the way. Wonder Woman, I think, is actually easier for me, because there haven't been so many infinite portrayals of Wonder Woman, definitely not in movies, but really anywhere, that there have been of Batman. Every single Batman story has been told. It seems like half the comics that have come out of DC over the past 30 years have Batman in them," Gunn added. "People love him because he's interesting, but also having so much of him out there can also make him boring. So how do you create that property that's fun to watch?" When Gunn unveiled the first slate of projects for the DC Universe in January 2023, the filmmaker announced The Brave and the Bold, a Batman film that would team the DCU's take on the Caped Crusader with Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's comic book son, with Talia al Ghul. In June 2023, it was then announced that The Flash director Andy Muschietti would direct the film. Announcements about the project have since been sparse, but Gunn has now given comic book fans some insight into why that has been the case. In the same interview with Rolling Stone, Gunn also offered an update on The Batman Part 2, director Matt Reeves' sequel to 2022's The Batman. "I'll also say, Batman Part 2 is not cancelled," Gunn said. "We don't have a script. Matt's slow. Let him take his time. Let him do what he's doing. God, people are mean. Let him do his thing, man." As for whether or not Pattinson's Batman could ever end up crossing over and becoming the DC Universe's Caped Crusader, Gunn said, "It would be a consideration. We'd have to think about it. We'd have to think about it. It is not like we've never discussed it." The DC Studios head later added, "It's not likely. It's not likely at all." Fans of Zack Snyder and James Gunn have been at war with each other ever since 2022, but ironically enough, Snyder and Gunn are good friends. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. It was 2013 when iconic director Zack Snyder, who had previously directed Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen, brought us a film starring Henry Cavill in the leading role of Superman in a film titled Man of Steel. Even though fans of James Gunn and Zack Snyder have been at a constant war ever since the former was announced as the co-head of DC Studios back in 2022, there's something beautiful about the friendship between Gunn and Snyder. A certain section of the fans revolted when it was announced that James Gunn would be directing the upcoming DCU movie, Superman, previously titled Superman, Legacy, as comparisons and parallels were drawn between his vision and Zack Snyder's 2013 movie, Man of Steel. However, when Gunn needed to solve a Superman problem, he contacted Zack Snyder for some help. Ironically enough, although the fans are at war, directors James Gunn and Zack Snyder are on good terms, and have often had talks with each other after Snyder left the DCU. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, James Gunn admitted that when he found a Superman problem, he didn't hesitate to ask for help from Zack Snyder. However, when James Gunn announced back in 2023 that David Corenswet was going to be the new Superman in the upcoming DCU movie, people weren't too happy about it. Negative comments were all over the internet, and an all-out war broke out between fans of Zack Snyder and James Gunn. The red trunks were a problem. Superman wasn't looking cool. That's because David Corenswet and James Gunn hadn't embraced the fact that Superman was supposed to look like this from the start. One of the biggest questions was, were we going to have trunks, or were we going to not have trunks? I talked to Zack Snyder, who was like, I tried a billion different versions with the trunks, and I couldn't get there. He continued, and I was feeling exactly the same way. I went in with David, he tried it not trunks, and he tried it trunks, and I was still going to go with not trunks. Theoretically, I liked the idea of trunks because it's, the Superman I grew up with. David Corenswet weighed in on the conversation when he agreed with Gunn that, but the problem is they look kind of silly. So, that's where the director and the cast of Superman found themselves. The question to wear red trunks or no red trunks was a pretty important one since the trunks made Superman stand out, and were also his special attire. But on the other hand, they also looked kind of silly. That's when David Corenswet revealed that he had a solution. The trunks were, after all, supposed to represent Superman in a friendly way and give a sense of hope to even little children, and not some dark form of an ancient god who wielded a weapon of mass destruction. Well, you wanted trunks in theory. But the problem is they look kind of silly. You were looking for a way to make them look cool, or you were looking for a function, an explanation for having them, to justify them. Corenswet continued. And my thing was just, maybe they're supposed to look a little silly, maybe the reason he wears them is to look a little silly, basically to undermine how powerful he really is. Well, it seems that David Corenswet and James Gunn will indeed have a chance to prove their Superman's uniqueness when the movie releases in theaters. Although we cannot say with certainty that the red trunks will look awesome or not, what we can say is that it's going to be a heck of an experience. New Wonder Woman movie is being written right now, James Gunn confirms. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. A new feature film about DC superhero Wonder Woman is being written right now, says DC Studios co-chief James Gunn in an interview with EW. The movie would be in addition to an HBO series about Wonder Woman's home of Themyscira, which Gunn says is slow-moving, but it's moving. The film would be a fresh start for the character, who was played on the big screen by Gal Gadot in 2017's Wonder Woman and Justice League, 2020's Wonder Woman 1984, 2021's Zack Snyder's Justice League, and in a cameo in 2023's The Flash. But Gunn and co-chief Peter Safran's plan to reboot the DC universe means that Gadot will not play the character moving forward. A representative for DC Studios did not immediately reply to a request for comment. A prospective Wonder Woman movie is one of several in development at the studio, which has only greenlit a small handful of